was the big news involving the Flames and the Canucks this week. The Calgary Flames, of course, granting Nikiita Zadorov's request from a couple of weeks ago, trading him to the Vancouver Canucks for a 3rd-round pick and a 5th-round pick. I think there was a lot of discussion on both ends. I think felt like there was a little bit of head scratching on both ends as well. From the Flames side, I think there was a lot of people that wondered about the return for Nikiita Zadorov. We'll touch on that from the Flames perspective. From the Canucks perspective, I saw a lot of people and fans asking what exactly they were getting for Nikiita Zadorov. And it wasn't that they were not happy. They weren't sure what that was. So I think that it's an interesting trade in the perspective from both teams. So Sean, you'll take the Canucks side of this and I'll take the Flames perspective on this. And hopefully between the two, I think we can come up with some sort of balance on here. Shocking in social media that there was an overreaction on this from one particular fan base, not the other, but you take the Canucks side and what the Canucks are getting, and I'll talk about this from the Flame side.
Yeah, well, I was actually very surprised that this deal got done literally on Wednesday with the last episode that I did with Tyler. I said I didn't see it happening, at least not as a trade. I thought that this would be Zadorov would be someone they targeted in the offseason, just because I wasn't sure how. I didn't have confidence that Conroy would trade in division, and Conroy would the price for Zadorov would be reasonable enough for the Canucks to make the move. But a 3rd and a 5th, it kind of makes it matches what other defensemen of similar ilk to Zadorov have gotten in the past couple of years, including when the Canucks traded away Luke Chen when they to the Leafs and got a 3rd-round pick back. So I think the within division sort of tax that the Flames put on Zadorov in this trade was the 5th, and that's nothing to really get too up in arms about. Zadorov is we all know he's a big boy. He can skate pretty well, and he's not afraid to throw that body around. So I think the Canucks losing Carson Soucy long term probably expedited this deal. But I really like what Zadorov can bring. The Canucks still are going to sort of deal with this defense by committee sort of approach to it, where you're going to see Hughes and Ronick out on the ice as much as possible, whether it's together or separated. Mix and match some of the defense pairs, but also putting Zadorov in that Soucy spot with Tyler Myers to create another Twin Towers pairing. If they can play a simple game and not get running around too much, that's going to be a tough pair to play against. And both those guys aren't afraid to throw use their size and throw their weight around, as well as how big they are. It's going to be tough to skate around them in tight quarters. So I think this was a deal that adds some more grit, toughness, and a little bit of other things to the Canucks blue line, and bolsters it, especially with the loss of Soucy.
Yeah, and he's not. When he came to Calgary, I don't think he was the same defenseman that is coming to Vancouver. I think he's improved a lot, especially his skating. Underrated in terms of skill. I think he's got a lot more skill than people realize. I remember a goal he scored in Ottawa a couple of years ago, and he probably played his best and was his most comfortable when he played with Eric Gudbranson, which probably fits well with the Tyler Myers pairing. As much as everybody thinks that that might be a chaos giraffe pairing, I think the Branson and Zadorov was also a chaos giraffe pairing, but it worked. And I think that and Myers and Zadorov did play together in Buffalo. And people also forget that Zadorov was a first-round pick, mid-first-round pick, if I remember correctly. So there's a lot of talent in this guy. He's got a lot of personality. I think he's a lot outspoken, which I think we'll bring this to where the Flames we're at here. This is a guy that I think ruffled a lot of feathers when he called out the team for his performance earlier in the year, saying basically the quote that was used is Daryl Sutter's not here anymore, so you need to pick it up. And then he also did spoke out about the Ukraine issue, which is an entirely different thing, but that was a big thing. And then in Toronto, during the Toronto game, Dan Milstein or Kevin Weeks tweeted that there was a trade request out. And from the Flames locker room perspective, whether you thought what Zadorov did was right or not, I'm just going to give this from the Flames locker room perspective. They were not happy about it in general. Backlund and Huska had to really say, just quiet the noise down, which there's going to be noise around the Flames this year, considering all the UFAs and everything that is going on. So Zadorov, I think trading Zadorov I think they ultimately decided, like, he put himself in an uncomfortable position. I personally thought it was a selfish position. I think that there's other players that did request a trade and have made it very quiet. He didn't. That may not be his personality, but also I don't think it rubbed the team the right way. And I think they wanted to get out of this as quickly as possible. And I don't think they wanted to retain salary on two fronts on this. I just think they wanted to wipe the slate clean of Nikiita Zadorov and move on from that position. But ultimately, from a salary cap perspective, right now, where the way things are going, you've got Kevin Rooney and Jacob Pelche on LTIR. So you're kind of in a deep position anyway. You don't want to retain salary to bring in another player. So I think just washing the hands of Nikiita Zadorov from the Flames perspective seemed to be the best thing. And Sean is right. And we had this discussion on here. I think that there was a number of people that I think completely overvalue what Nikiita Zadorov is. He's a third pairing defenseman. That's probably the comfortable sweet spot that you have Nikiita Zadorov. There's a lot of good things, but he's not going to get you anything more than a third round pick. If there was a sign and trade, I could possibly have seen a second round pick in this, maybe, but I think ultimately the Flames got fair value for Nikiita Zadorov, and quite frankly, the spreadsheet drawers and those that are in the sell mode are completely overvaluing what you think you're going to get for a number of these Flame UFAs. It's there right now. Like, teams don't have the cap room. I mean, there was Elliot Friedman reported last night that Chris Tanev and the Leafs wanted Tanev and Zadorov, but they wanted the Flames to retain half of the salary. That's just the example of what we're going through here. It is really hard to make trades, and I think when you evaluate a trade, I think you have to evaluate this with the salary cap involved. And you weren't getting a Niels Höglander. That's what's just ridiculous. And you weren't getting anything from the Abbotsford Canucks. That's just ridiculous. This was fair value. And if you don't think it's fair value, quite frankly, you overvalued Nikiita Zadorov.